We all know the feeling of not feeling like doing the thing that we know we need to do. And maybe in those times you distract yourself with your dopamine machine of choice, or you just potter. In those moments you can't even enjoy your dopamine, you can't enjoy your pottering because all you're thinking about in the back of your mind is that you have that thing that you need to be doing. Enter your personal arsenal of momentum creators. Whenever you're feeling unmotivated but there's something that needs to be done, you pull out a momentum creator from your personal toolkit, and 80 to 90% of the time you are amazed at how well it works. In this video I'm going to share with you 14 of my favorite go-to momentum creators that I use all the time whenever I'm not feeling motivated. But first, what actually is a momentum creator? The goal of a momentum creator, it isn't to achieve anything, it's not to complete anything, although that can be a side effect. It's to get you started moving in the right direction, because once you're moving in the right direction, it's always easier to keep on moving. The momentum creators that I'm going to share in this video target what I think are the 6 biggest reasons for procrastination and low motivation. These ones. Now let's talk about my absolute favorite momentum creators that I do sincerely use all of the time. Number 1, the zoom out. So something I often see on sales pages is 3-tier pricing. A good product, a better product, a premium product. Because there are more pricing options, people are more likely to take action. And this idea is similar to the mental move that I'm about to talk about, the zoom out. One of the 5 biggest reasons that you resist doing the things that you know you should be doing is all or nothing mode. Just like all or nothing pricing often leads customers to just ditch and not purchase anything, all or nothing options in our life lead us to just ditch and not do anything. When the 2 options are do it or don't do it, of course we are going to take the don't do it option when we're feeling super unmotivated. In Segar's book, The Joy Choice, she says, instead of asking ourselves, will I do this or not, we should ask, how can I make this work? I also like to use the question, what am I willing to do? Even if it's just like a small portion of the bigger thing that I want to do. Number 2, the zoom in. So my partner and I are currently planning a wedding. When we first got engaged, everyone was like, when's the wedding? When's it happening? And I'd be like, oh, like I haven't even started thinking about it because it's overwhelming me. And the reason that it was overwhelming me was because I was too zoomed out. I was thinking about the big picture of a wedding when what I needed to be thinking about was the very first step. And that's why the second momentum creator is actually about zooming in. Anytime that you notice yourself getting overwhelmed by the big picture of a goal that you have, or even just a day-to-day task, your goal is to let it go and zoom in on the very next step. And only when you've completed that step can you focus on the step after that. Number 3. Since I was younger, I've struggled to take pills. So whenever I take them, to this day, I'll get like a spoonful of syrup and take it with my pill. Take the same approach with tasks that feel like taking a bitter pill. This momentum creator is add a spoonful of sugar. Here are a few figurative spoonfuls of syrup that you can try. Number 1, take yourself to that new cafe that you've been wanting to go to for ages and do the thing. Number 2, go and get your favorite treat. Eat it while you do the thing. Number 3, if it's more passive, download the movie, album, podcast you've been wanting to listen to, play it while you get that thing done. The warning that goes alongside this momentum creator is that whenever you use it, you're reinforcing that the task you're doing is unpleasant. Do it with once-off, crappy tasks. Number 4, have you ever had someone tell you to do something that you already were planning and intending on doing, but as soon as they told you that you should do it, you've backed off and gone, ugh, I don't want to do that. Sometimes the same thing happens when we try to tell ourselves what to do. We have this natural desire for autonomy and control. When we feel like we're taking that away from ourselves, like of course we would feel resistant. When that happens, try and use this momentum creator. Go slow, don't stop. Give yourself total control over how slowly you're going to do something. You're still going to do whatever it is, but you're going to do it as slowly as you need to do it to get it done. Number 5, the 20-minute journal sesh. Mark Forster wrote, when a problem occurs, direct your attention to why the problem occurred. So much of the time, we resist things, but we don't actually know why we resist things. For example, you might do a 20-minute journaling sesh, trying to figure out why you are resisting something. And then you might realize that it's because you have so many tools that you are juggling. It's overwhelming, it's complicated. And then you might move to Canva, the sponsor of today's video, so that you can stop juggling multiple tools and subscriptions and plan, create, schedule, and publish all of your designs in the one place. If you're doing any kind of creating in your job, presentations, training programs, induction videos, social content, onboarding resources, Canva does it really well. It makes sure anything that you produce is professional and engaging, and you don't need a bunch of different tools to do all of those things. I've recently been using Canva to create my Retrain Your Brain program for intention. I'm someone who doesn't want to spend very much time on design, but I also want things to look nice. So I use the Canva Pro brand kit feature. It has all of my colors, all of my fonts. I was able to pick a pre-existing template and then match it to my brand, which is so fun. And doing this just keeps everything on brand and consistent, but it's really easy. Then I use their layout tool to reorganize everything on the page and make it all beautiful. And then you can also use their present and record tool to turn it into a presentation with video. The free version of Canva honestly does have so much to offer, but in saying that, I use Pro every single day. Here are just some ways that I've used Canva Pro in the last few weeks. I resized all of my social media graphics using the Pro Magic Resize tool. I uploaded my own fonts because I want to use my own brand fonts in Canva. We use the Pro Background Remover tool to remove the busy background in this image that you saw earlier in the video. And I always use the unlimited folders that you can have with Canva Pro. Pro offers all of these little extras that make your Canva experience even better than it already is. You can get 45 days for free of Canva Pro using my link in the description down below and the code muchelleb. Click the link in the description down below to get your 45 days for free. Number 6. I was recently listening to an interview with Rick Rubin, a music producer, and he worked with this artist who overcame his creative block by always writing bad stuff before he got to the good stuff. And he saw this as almost like unblocking the good stuff, almost like clearing a tap. The water would run dirty before it ran clear. I also think that giving yourself permission to do something badly relieves pressure and expectation, which is why the next momentum creator is asking yourself, how can I do a really half-assed job here? If what you're struggling with is having rigid expectations with yourself, asking this question will give you almost like a inner sigh of relief. It gives you permission to just mess around and not be great. And sometimes when you do this, you'll come up with something way better than you would have otherwise. Sometimes it just clears the way. Number 7. I saw this meme recently about how ADHD people should have a service where they clean each other's house because it's so much easier to clean someone else's house than it is to clean your own. And that is the power of this next momentum creator. Hold the task in your mind as if it's a favor for your future self to create momentum. This has a weird way of transforming an annoying task into this really lovely favor that you're doing for future you. You can almost get excited for how future you is going to feel when you start looking at your task this way. Flood your mind with the same thoughts that you might get when doing a favor for a friend. Like, they're going to be so happy once this is done, they're going to be so appreciative, their life is going to be made so much easier because of doing this. Really visualize your future self and picture how they are going to feel. And when you are done doing the thing that you need to do, actually thank your past self. So really reinforce this idea that current you and future you are separate beings. Which leads to number 8, switching your focus to whoever you think will benefit the most from whatever you're doing. That could be your boss, a customer, a friend, a family member. And do the exact same thing. Visualize how this person might use whatever you're doing, or how they might react to whatever you're doing, or how much easier it'll make their life. Number 9. So whenever I'm feeling really overwhelmed and just like, ugh, like I can't get myself moving, I'll go back to the basics. Which is why this momentum creator is all about having a feel better focus. So I do this by using my bounce back checklist, which I've talked about a million times on this channel. That's where I look at things like, have I drunk enough water? Have I had enough food? Is my environment clean? Have I had a shower? Am I too warm? Am I too cold? I actually created a bounce back checklist on my app Intention that I use semi-regularly whenever I have this experience of like, ugh, I just feel so overwhelmed. And having some checklist form of this can be really helpful because when you're low motivation, you don't want to have to think about what to do. Number 10. Have you ever said to yourself, I'll just declutter that one drawer? And then an hour later, you're like 5 drawers in and you're like, I don't know how this happened. This was not my intention. That is the power of the I'll just momentum creator. The I'll just momentum creator can look like, I'll just set a 20-minute timer and see what I can do in that 20 minutes. See where it goes. I'll just put on my workout clothes. I don't have to work out, I'll just put my clothes on. And you can keep I'll justing yourself all day long if you need to. Almost always you'll hit a point where you feel so unstuck that you don't need to keep on I'll justing. Number 11. So recently I started resisting my emails like a lot. So I decided to sit with it and ask myself, what is the real problem here? Which I talked about earlier. And it hit me that I wasn't procrastinating my emails, I was procrastinating the decisions that my emails brought to me because I hadn't worked through my worries about those decisions. Which is why the next momentum creator is working through your worries, because this happens to everyone. Unspecific, unidentified worries are getting in your way all the time. So here's how to work through your worries. Firstly, ask yourself, what specific worry do I actually have here? Often worries are really vague and broad, like I won't like it, I'll regret it. Like, what does that mean? Get specific. And then identify the worst thing that could happen, what you could do to prevent it, what you could do if it actually comes to life, and what the best possible outcome is, and how you could make that happen. Vague, unspecific, unaddressed worries will keep you stuck in resistance. Number 12. So one of the biggest reasons for resistance is a lack of control, which I've already mentioned. And in part, it's because lack of control is what makes work feel like work. And there are two mental moves that I like to do to make work feel less like work. Firstly, the dabbler mental move, where you ask yourself, how can I just have fun? How can I just dabble with this task, see what's up? This works especially well when you are resisting goals that you set for yourself, that you once were excited about, that for some reason you just lost a little joy about. Then there's number 13, which is the burst method, where you write down a list of 3 to 5 things that you want to get done, and you slip in that one thing that you're resisting. For your first burst session, you want to work on every task for 5 minutes. Then you want to work on each task for 10 minutes, and 15 minutes, and 20 minutes, and so on and so forth. You're slowly raising the bar as you create momentum. Once again, this is giving you a sense of control, and you're like, yep, I'll just do a little bit here and there, see how it goes, but you will slowly build up momentum and motivation. Number 14, think about something that you really just don't feel like doing. And in this scenario, I'm in the room with you. I'm just gonna quietly sit on my phone while you do your thing. It sounds really simple, but this momentum creator seems to work for most people, and it's called body doubling. If you have a task that you need to get done, consider just getting someone to sit in a chair nearby, doing their own thing while you do your thing. Number 15. It took me into my mid-20s to realize that the only way that I was gonna eat a whole apple is if I cut it into tiny pieces for myself. The apple doesn't taste any better cut into tiny pieces, it doesn't look any better, it's not any better for me. It's just easier. I don't have to think about where to start. I don't have to think about how much I want. I just pick up a piece, I eat it. And that is the power of breaking your task up into little tiny quick ticks. Quick ticks shouldn't be any longer than 10 minutes, which is the longest length for a TikTok. But ideally on a tough day, you do want them to be even smaller. And every single task can be broken up into quick ticks. Showering can be broken up into quick ticks. Cleaning your room can be broken up into quick ticks. Getting that project done can be broken up into quick ticks. I would use this mental move alongside the I'll just mental move. So all of these momentum creators are really helpful, but let's talk about how to actually get into the habit of using them, because absolutely nothing is helpful unless you actually use it. And that's the problem sometimes with like these productivity hacks, because you're like, yeah, that sounds so good, and then you go on to never ever use it except for maybe that one time on that one day. But imagine if a pilot was practicing their emergency response mid-emergency. It would be absolutely useless. He'd be in a panic and he wouldn't be able to perform very well. And that's what you can look like when you try to use momentum creators when you're feeling really sluggish and demotivated for the very first time. For every pattern of behavior that you have a neural pathway that's associated with it. If you have a neural pathway that you want your brain to use in any kind of emergency, you need to make sure that it has been used many times outside of the emergency. The emergency being you feeling super demotivated, sluggish, not wanting to do things. Because usually when you're feeling demotivated, when you're feeling overwhelmed, maybe when you're feeling stressed or resistant, you're not thinking super clearly. So you don't want that to be the first time that you use these new neural pathways. To become someone who defaults to momentum creators, you want to use those momentum creators in non-urgent situations. Start picking tasks that you are resisting once a day. Not when you're feeling super demotivated or flat or overwhelmed, but just when you're feeling pretty neutral. Then pick a momentum creator and use it for that task. And keep on doing this over and over again when you're in more of a neutral state, and you will find yourself when you're feeling demotivated going to these momentum creators without even thinking about it. If you got something out of this video, you will definitely get something out of my video called 7 Ways to Build Discipline or something along that lines. That video is so good. Underrated, if you ask me. I need to think of a better title for it. But it's all about the things that you can do, including, I do talk about momentum creators in it, but I also talk about a bunch of other things that you can do to build self-discipline, for lack of a better term. I'm gonna have that video linked down below as well as on the screen. I appreciate you so much, and I'll see you soon.